Welcome to a Woody Wednesday. We are at the unofficial midway point of training camp, and with one scrimmage already done for Ohio State and a second one on Saturday, there is literally no better time to invest in fake stonks than right now on the beat. He is Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Welcome back to another one. It is time to make some fake money.
I like fake money. I like real money. I like seeing guys out on the practice field at Ohio State working to make their money. And that's what we've been able to see in the first couple weeks. We've been able to hear about it. The chatter is picking up. It's a wonderful time to be in Ohio.
Yeah. No real variety in some of those guys that like to stay 2 hours after practice. You're going to see CJ Hicks, I guarantee it. You're going to see Phillip Daniels, I guarantee it. Both of those guys, I think you can continue to buy stocks in. I don't know either one, how many snaps that actually means.
Well, that's the challenge, right? It does, just because the guy's doing all the right things doesn't mean that you're going to be a starter, doesn't mean you're going to play. The conversation, I mean, we'll start with these two guys because I think that they, again, we've talked so much about CJ Hicks in the last year, and many times that conversation ends up being, let's slow down, let's back off, let's temper the enthusiasm. And I think
he's not ready to be unleashed.
I still think that's fair, but at the same time, like the way people talk about him, Phillip Daniels called him a mini Abdul Carter. And I'm like, I don't know that he's mini, but he doesn't have the experience certainly or the national recognition, but like the athleticism, the things that he does, like it's working. He is a problem for the offensive line, and they all hate him for it. But then they all love him because he's the guy that's working with them after practice. So, but Phillip Daniels is where we have to start.
We do.
He's changed the conversation. We talked about it on Snap Judgments on Tuesday. We talked about it on Monday after Snap Judgments because he's put himself in a position where Ryan Day and Tyler Bowen are saying, well, we probably can't ignore this.
Yeah, I thought it was really fascinating the way that Phillip Daniels talked about working against CJ Hicks during practice, after practice, the way that they break down the techniques and the moves that CJ's using and how it might be 6 months between when CJ does this thing to him and Phillip Daniels has to remember that and process that. It can be, I don't know, we can get ahead of ourselves and say, well, Phillip Daniels has this level of starting experience and CJ Hicks has been in this program now for 4 years at Ohio State. Like, they're relatively veteran guys, but they also haven't played that many high leverage snaps. It's 4 starts at Minnesota for Phillip Daniels, and reserve reps at linebacker for CJ Hicks and not being a starting or regular in the rotation at defensive end, but they are so committed to learning it, and the way that they talk about it is awesome. They're like, well, sometimes we loop in Ethan Oniano and we talk about some of the improvements that he can make and the things that we're talking about technically, and it's like, how is that? That guy's played more football than you guys, but they're all three together. We shouldn't exclude Ethan Oniano from that because he's also been part of some of those reps we've seen. And it's going to be critical because one of those guys, I think, is going to have to take the first snap at right tackle against Texas. And CJ Hicks, in some form or fashion, is going to have to be involved if the Silver Bullets are going to reach their full potential and be the number one defense in the country again.
Yeah, and that's just the unknown. Like when you take a transfer from Rice, you don't know exactly how it's going to translate. I think for Phillip Daniels, it's easier for him to come into a place like Ohio State after playing in the Big Ten and having the rigors. For whatever we want to say about PJ Fleck or the way Minnesota is as a program, they've been pretty good in the last handful of years about developing offensive linemen. They knew what they wanted. Phillip Daniels was going to be the anchor of their offensive line for the next 3 years. So like that's a guy that they really believed had the juice to get it done. And he mentioned that he had doubts about himself when he got to Ohio State. And then in the first 3 weeks of being here, he was practicing against Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau and realizing if I can play with these guys, I can play. And I don't know if maybe that transition was a little longer for Ethan Oniano, if it's the combination of that transition plus having to reshape his body and lose some weight and figure out exactly which version of himself he was going to be at Ohio State. But as we talked about on Tuesday, like this is not a bad problem to have for Ohio State, but it's hard to have this conversation without really going, oh, Phillip Daniels has changed it. He's the guy that changed it.
Yeah,
and that means he has to be first stonk.
That's a great one. I own, I think, 98% of the stocks in this player already, but if there are 2% more available, I'm going to get him. And the reason that I want to talk about Kayden McDonald is because 7 months of talk about defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. And then the first day Edric Houston goes down and it's immediately shifting to the 3 technique depth and who's going to fill in there. Edric comes back. Okay, well, that's a big sigh of relief. And then we talk about whether Jason Moore can play, what's Tywan Malone going to do, what's Eric Mensah going to do. Oh, well, Will Smith's over here. There's some depth that's important at nose. That's all good. And then we never talk about the guy who I think is truly going to anchor this. And
he has to be the anchor.
He has to be. He knows that. The responsibility is firmly on Kayden McDonald's shoulders, and they are certainly broad enough to handle that without question. The changes to his body are impressive. The way that he's playing, though, this is not from the first 3 practices where they weren't in full pads, full go. We weren't able to really get a great read on that.
Yeah.
I lost track, and I wasn't asking. I didn't say, hey, please tell me about Kayden McDonald and give me the most glowing praise you can. It was just asked generically. Who's giving you guys the best test? Who's making you better? What's the iron sharpening iron? Who's the defensive lineman that is flashing to you? And I lost count, but I think it was every single person on Ohio State's offensive line said, it is K-Mac. And I said, that's great. I love a lucrative stock, and I'm going to get whatever's left.
He's earned it. I mean, he's waited his time. He's bided his time. He's been a guy that has not complained about not playing last year when he probably deserved more playing time. But when you have who...
I mean, how could he get it, though?
Right. How can you get it? And it's a similar position, I think, for a lot of these guys that are one thing that was interesting is Tiger Shabola mentioned on Tuesday, he was asked about how Mick Marotti impacts him and himself. And, he said, nothing happens by accident. The guys that are here, that are in the weight room, that are doing all the things, that are taking what Coach Marotti is doing to us and growing from it and buying in, those guys, like, it's not a surprise when they emerge and become like a superstar. And that's what a guy like Kayden McDonald, he's always done the right thing since he got here. He's always had a chip on his shoulder since he didn't get recruited by Georgia coming out of high school, despite the fact that he was the best defensive lineman in the state of Georgia, but he was only 6'2.5" instead of 6'4", and so Georgia wouldn't recruit. This is a kid who's done it the right way. He's a difference maker. Luke Montgomery recalled going down to Georgia and watching him as a running back, and was asked to describe Kayden McDonald in one word, and he said shifty. That's just not what you anticipate hearing for a 6'2.5", 320-pound defensive tackle, but that's who he is. He is a menace. He is a really, really good football player, and Ohio State should send Georgia a thank you card.
No, they don't need to thank him.
Fine, whatever.
They don't have to communicate with them.
Oh, well, I mean, it's courteous, but either way.
I think you just taunt him. You just thumb your nose at him and say, ha, got this one on you. Sorry, I took more Kayden McDonald.
True.
You're a rock star.
I believe that there is a large portion of the fan base that forgets Will Kazmarek exists. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I can only speak for myself, Birm, and I don't forget about tight ends.
I think that...
In fact, I was going to name one for a stock.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one?
You're on Will Kazmarek. So
I just think Will Kazmarek is a guy that we're not discussing enough, and maybe that's not what this episode of Stock Watch is about, because that's a totally different show, who we're not talking about enough. But it's just a reminder, I think, for people that the tight end depth chart, as we've seen it, as we've heard it, hasn't really changed, which is Max Clare and Will Kazmarek are at the top, and then it's shuffling the deck with Bennett Christian and Jelani Thurman and trying to figure out if Nate Roberts has a role. But those top two and Max Clare, who, despite the fact that he's the best returning tight end in college football, we don't talk about him at all, really. We're like, oh, well, he's going to be great. It's going to be it's going to be different. But this tight end room is going to be really, really good. And Will Kazmarek is going to be the anchor. He's the linchpin, because he's the one that allows you to do a whole bunch of different things with Max Clare.
He does open up the playbook and the flexibility for Max Clare. If Max Clare came to Ohio State and Will Kazmarek did not exist, the things that Keenan Bailey and Ryan Day and Brian Hartline would ask him to do would not allow him to even remotely come close to the 51 catches that he had at Purdue last season. And I still don't know that he's going to get to that point. We're getting to the point where it is bold prediction season. Mm-hmm. But I wrote about it at Letterman Row last week. It's okay, that's only 3.5 catches a game to get to that point if they play 15, 16 times. And you don't think that that's a ton for someone with Max Clare's ability. I'm spinning off, but Will Kazmarek is part of this conversation as well. He's going to get the football some, and they're going to be on the field both at the same time. And 55 catches is the record for an Ohio State tight end.
Yeah.
he could do that. Is he going to do that?
I mean, Cade Stover had 41 in 2023, and he was a Mackey finalist, right? So it's all there for Max Clare, but the engine that makes the tight end room go is what Will Kazmarek allows them to do, which is why I don't care if Will Kazmarek may finish with less catches this year than Mylan Graham, but his impact is going to be felt, and it is going to be felt most explicitly in the way that Max Clare is utilized as a receiver. Yeah. So that's why I'm bringing him up. It's not a sexy stock by any stretch, but I think it's an important one.
Well, I think there may also be an element here that he did not practice fully in the first 3 days when media was here.
And he was hurt in the spring. And
when the fans were able to buy tickets for those practices. So it wasn't like he's going to be front of mind for that. Maybe that's, put him on the back burner for that conversation a bit. But so you're right, I think, to bring him back up. And I think that maybe some of those early reps helped Jelani Thurman take another step forward. I think there have been, again, they weren't fully padded those first 3 practices, but he was catching the football and making an impact in the red zone in a way that everyone has, I think, every Ohio State fan has been waiting for since the moment that he signed. And when Kevin Wilson was saying, this is the kind of weapon that Ohio State has never had at tight end before. And it hasn't transpired. And a lot of the discussion around him has been, well, maybe it's hard for him to learn how to block. And Jelani would talk about that himself, being an all-around tight end and understanding how to block a tight end or a defensive end on one play and beat a safety in a pass route on the next. But I think it was more about consistency catching the football, ironically, that was holding him back from a role that he wanted.
Yeah, there's a belief that it was because he wasn't blocking.
And I don't think that was the reality of the situation. And, even last year when he had the clutch catch at Penn State, and then Ryan Day's he had to catch it 3 times to make it once. That is a little bit of a joke that comes from, all good jokes have an element of truth in them, right? So I think he's taken that next step. I was told specifically about him standing out on Saturday in the scrimmage. I don't think that means he's going to supplant the top 2 of Clare and Kazmarek, and he's going to do something that's different than Bennett Christian. But when I've said that this is the best tight end group in America, that's why. You have someone with his skill set that is either 3rd or 4th on the depth chart at Ohio State. That's obscene.
I think that's unfair. I think that's a challenge of the tight end room, because we look at Will Kazmarek and Bennett Christian and you say, these guys are blockers. And then you look at Max Clare and Jelani Thurman and Nate Roberts and you go, well, these guys are the pass catchers. But that's not necessarily true. And it's taking away from what the goal for Nate Roberts is. He's not designed to be Max Clare, but neither is Bennett Christian. Bennett Christian is also not designed to be Jelani Thurman, who's not designed to be Will Kazmarek. How do you figure out a way to use them all? That is up to Keenan Bailey. But Jelani has put himself into that conversation where he has to be on the field now, which it was never a matter of talent for him. It's a matter of
I wouldn't say, you and I made this point for the last 3 years, it's not a matter of lack of work ethic either. He was always, as a true freshman, you had multiple, staff members and assistants to the assistant coming out here on a Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. He was getting in work before practice, after practice. So not everybody's journey and development track is going to take the same length of time.
No, but it's also only been 3 years, 2 years of being in the system, and this is entering year 3. And that used to be the expectation for a tight end position. It used to be the expectation for the offensive line. We've emphasized being ready when people are freshmen because the sport has changed and the attention to it has changed. But that's not altogether strange. I almost said the S word. Terry McLaurin couldn't catch a ball till his 5th year at Ohio State. You know what I mean? But he worked his butt off. He constantly worked. And by the time he wasn't reliable, let's just say that, until year 5.
He didn't have any problem downing punts.
No, he did. If they found other ways to be involved, and the tight ends don't really have that luxury unless you become a blocking extraordinaire. And no tight end wants to be that, but that's now your goal. Jeremy Ruckert got here and it was you're a pass catcher. That's all you do. And then by year 3, people are Jeremy, can you learn how to block or not? And then that's all he got asked about for the final 2 years of his career. So it's definitely just a room that the stock has to be up on. And what that means for the future, I guess we'll find out. I don't think Keenan Bailey is going to have a large budget in the future. So he has to get the best out of these guys. So it's going to be here's your guy, make him a standout, and he's done a great job.
But you also, you're right. You're not going to have the largest budget, and you're going to be trying to devote those resources to one or two guys. But like Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, and the way that Keenan Bailey or Kevin Wilson before that have developed and utilized the tight end, and especially the years where it's a third of the snaps are in 12 personnel, you do need to spend there still.
Yeah, Nick Van App's still in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like it's a position Ohio State has routinely put guys in the league, and it doesn't have to show up as 56 catches in one season here. Like, as you do all the little things, you're doing it at Ohio State. You're blocking the best defensive ends in the country. Like, you're going to get noticed. You're going to get seen. And so Keenan Bailey has done a really masterful job changing the conversation with recruits away from usage equaling catches. Like, usage is how much are you playing?
How much are you on the field? Yeah, no, that's a great point.
And that's where a guy like Jelani Thurman, who I think a lot of folks assumed that, he didn't play much in the first 2 years, he's going to transfer. Like, Jelani, the mindset has shifted. It's like he loves being here, and now he's, ready to be a major part. Being a major part is part of stock watches.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Uh-huh.
I tried to back off the Bo Jackson thing a little bit.
No, you didn't.
In the last couple of weeks. But
No.
I'm more and more convinced that he's going to be a regular part of the handoff committee. And I don't know why, but it's just any person you talk to about anything that goes on, it's like, well, don't forget Bo. And I'm trying my best to decipher, is this just off-season chatter because there's only one football, right? How do you get so I think he probably still will have the similar workload that James Peoples had a year ago, but
it seems like
he's in a position, because he's not playing behind Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, that like if he has the same ooh-ah factor that we saw when James Peoples came on the field last year in the first couple of games.
Yeah.
Is it a similar situation where you can justify keeping him off of it? And I don't know that that's the case.
Yeah. When the run game on Saturday in the first scrimmage was described to me as a little bit of a mixed bag and a struggle, that can be a really good sign, because the defensive line is doing a good job stopping the run. Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Peyton Pierce slowing that down as well.
Those guys are fast.
Those are all good players. So I don't know that should probably be encouraging news, because I think in the long run, whether it's C.J. Donaldson, James Peoples, or potentially Bo Jackson, like all those guys are going to find bigger running lanes and less athletic linebackers to run away from once the season actually starts. Yeah. Maybe not specific to the Texas game,
definitely,
but for most of the season after that, the opportunities are going to be there for them. But they're like, it was, this person said mixed bag, didn't think the running game was all that effective. But then Bo Jackson broke off this run, and I think he had the longest one of the day. Don't know the stats. I don't know the situation. I don't know who was on the field. That's part of the nature of trying to parse through what's real and what's not real during close scrimmages and close practice during the month of August. But I trust this person, and I trust their evaluation. And I was like, well, I think about the first Carlos Lockwood press conference of the year in February, before Bo Jackson had even taken part in a practice. And I was like, this guy's winter was amazing, and I love his work ethic, and I think you guys should keep an eye on him. And now I'm just putting together all these pieces, and I'm like, I guess I'm going overboard on a true freshman.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to, but this is not the same circumstance that James Peoples walked into a year ago. So I think, and Carlos Lockwood was adamant about that when the running backs were out here last Friday, is that nobody here has a job yet. And that was the point he tried to make in February when he was talking about C.J. Donaldson and Bo Jackson. That was the point he made last week trying to talk about C.J. Donaldson and James Peoples. There is no order, there is no defined role, and so everyone's going to have it. And I know a lot of times when coaches say that, it's coach speak, but with Carlos Lockwood, I don't
think he believes in coach speak.
Yeah, I don't believe that he does. And so when he says, "Hey, this is wide open," I think you have to view it that way. And then all the things you hear from the players on the team, the parents who get to watch games and practices, the former players who get to watch things, they're all like, well, actually, Bo Jackson's pretty dang good, and and you can see it. He believes in himself, and I'm not saying he's going to be a starter at Ohio State this year. I'm saying that stock is one that you should hold on to, because the reviews have been too consistently good for too long for me to just chalk it up as freshman talk.
I'm concerned at how similar our stocks were this week. We don't have very diverse portportfolios.
No, well, there's again, we talk a lot about this football team.
We do?
Yeah, and so there's only so many things you talk about. Is your next one Sam?
I was going to talk about Bo Jackson.
Oh, okay, cool.
Do you know who there were 4 names that I was immediately told on Saturday. We've talked about 3 of them already, and the 4th was Malik Hartford. So I think that I don't know that's breaking news.
McArary's kid's favorite player.
So, and I have a lot of that. I've said that I thought Malik Hartford was going to start next to Caleb Downs against Texas. I think it's probably more likely that you'll also see Jalen McClain, Malik Hartford, and Caleb Downs out there. We'll see. I mean, that's
where that Iron Buckeye conversation comes up, right? Because Jalen McClain was one of those.
Yeah,
he's the only safety on that group, not Caleb Downs, not Malik Hartford. So,
but they need them both.
They need them both.
So I think it doesn't mean anything if Jalen McClain was on the rise over here on one day because of Iron Buckeye and the confidence and swagger that he's playing with. Well, then you can counterbalance that the next time out because Malik Hartford goes out and makes plays in the scrimmage. You feel good about that.
Yeah.
What is safety-driven defense or not? What do we know that Matt Patricia wants to do? Use whatever personnel is available to him. Match up with whatever the opposing offense does well to try and negate that. There's going to be opportunity for Jalen McClain, for Caleb Downs, obviously Caleb Downs, for Malik Hartford, for Lorenzo Styles, for Aaron Scott. I mean, like all these guys are going to be able to do different things to help this team. So it's not a one or the other. I didn't really think that in the summer when I was picking one starter over the other. Well, like they both have to play, and they're both maximizing the chances.
I think it's a pretty important question though, because we've seen in the games, James Laurinaitis said that he has 3 starters, right? Does McArary have 3 starters?
I bet he'll say that, yeah.
Or does he have? Is his rotation going to be situational? If it came down to like these are my starters every day, is Jalen or Malik more qualified, more ready to be a starter no matter the matchup? And I guess we have not spoken to McArary and his group out here. We still will at some point
next week.
So getting an answer on that, or are these two strictly interchangeable no matter what? I think is the curiosity that I have, because we know last year's defense took on a whole different life when Caleb Downs was able to move, when he was able to be moved around the defense like a chess piece. And the only way that happens is if Jalen McClain and Malik Hartford are both ready to play all the time. Because otherwise, Caleb Downs is just like, well, we can only do it in this specific package, or if this specific guy's on the field, and that's just not the way football works. So, what we know is that Malik Hartford is like really, really respected on this team. That we know that he is a different type of physical player than Ohio State's really had at safety in a while. He's like a headhunter. He's a hitter.
Yeah.
How much has he learned to play under control? How much did he gain from watching Lathan Ransom being like controlled violent? and that's Malik has been out of control violent for the first 2 years when he's been on the field. So the feedback's been pretty good though.
Yeah, really has. That'll be really looking forward to that day with the secondary next week, but we're not there yet. There's still a scrimmage coming on Saturday. There's also availability on Thursday
defensive
with
line.
The Ohio State defensive line. The Rushmen will make their appearance, and there'll be a lot to talk about with Larry Johnson and his group there. So much intrigue over the last 6-7 months, and maybe we'll preview some of that. Who knows if it'll come up, because the beat on Thursday, we talk about 3 things. So we will do that then.
Maybe there'll be 3 things about the defensive line.
Very well could be. I bet there will be on snap judgments on Thursday.
100%.
There will be maybe even more than 3.
Probably.
But that's still a day away. This has been a Wednesday stock watch, though. Thanks for joining us. He's Birm. I'm Austin. This has been the Austin and Birm Show. We'll talk to you tomorrow.